year B.Ed student at Acadia University right now, teaching elementary. And I think I chose that. I've done a lot of reflecting as it is in the program. And I think a lot of it actually links back to my mom and having kids in the house so often when I was younger, and then just like constantly being surrounded by like younger children and stuff like that. And my personality type kind of lends itself to teaching as well. Um, so I started in my second year at Acadia as a resident assistant, and I was only 18, just turned 19 when I began that, which is normally fine because you're normally in like Frosh residence buildings. So typically like the students are younger than you, but I was young for like the year that I was in. So I was the same age as a lot of them. Thankfully in my first year, I didn't have to deal with too much that like made me uncomfortable or anything like that. So that was more of like, I guess that first year kind of gave me space to come into my own. I grew a lot in that year. I think I come across as pretty extroverted, but honestly, I have a really hard time like getting to know people or like putting myself in positions where I'm putting myself out there and trying to meet new people and stuff like that. And if you're an RA, you really have no other option than to throw yourself full force into that with 150 kids showing up and you're like the only person that they have at that point in time. So I think that year was like a really good growth year for me to kind of figure out who I was in that position and what my leadership looked like and what I was comfortable with and stuff like that. And then the next year, I came back as an RA again, and that's when things kind of got like a little rocky where I wasn't dealing so much with like easier things. I think my forte is I'm louder. I I don't mind being confrontational. So like dealing with party situations or things like crowd control stuff was really easy for me and didn't bother me. Where in my second year as an RA, I dealt with a lot of mental health, sexual assault disclosure stuff for the entire year. And I had never done that before. Even in high school, like I had a couple friends who struggled with mental health, but they weren't very open with it. So it wasn't something that ever affected me personally in any way. And that kind of blindsided me, to be honest, trying to figure out how to help somebody else when one, that person wasn't ready to help themselves. And two, when it comes to sexual assault stuff, there's not much you can do for somebody other than just be there. Like it's one of those things that's completely out of your hands other than just like supporting somebody through that and giving them their options if there are any. And that depends on like when it happened and where it took place and all that stuff. So coming to terms with all of that really beat me down and I wasn't ready for it. So then that year was more of a growth year, less of me like developing my like authoritative or like leadership identity, but more so like coming to terms with what I can handle and where I need to draw the line for my own mental well-being. And that was not something I had to think about prior to that year. And then I came in as an SRA, which is basically you're like the team leader of a group of people in the building that are taking care of everybody else. So your problems that and I shouldn't say problems, but the things that you deal with multiply because you're no longer like responsible for a section of 25 people. You have the entire building, and then also the well-being of all the people, all your RAs to take into account, and which again can be difficult because if you have an RA who went through the same things that I did in my second year, I was a mess, and my SRA had to take care of me while also trying to take care of the person that was actually going through things. So it's just been, I don't know. I think it was really good for me. I don't think I would have felt comfortable going into a position where, like, I think this is applicable, I guess, moving forward into a school system and stuff like that, where you have kids that didn't necessarily get the same background that I come from, where I didn't have much to worry about. I didn't have many things affecting me. Like I went to school was a happy place for me. Being confronted with all of these things and kind of learning how I deal with them and where I kind of position myself with these issues is something that came from this job, and I'm super grateful for it. I don't think there's very many places that you can get an experience like this outside of RAing because it's such a weird, like you're seen as somebody that people can go to and as like a source of comfort and whatever. But in reality, I'm nothing more than a student like them. Like the only thing that, I don't know, differentiates between the two is an Acadia and embellished polo. So like, I don't know, you have these kids coming to you with these huge problems and they expect you to fix them. And you're like, I don't know. I'm in the same boat as you are here, but I can try to help you get through it together in the best way possible. So I think it's help with my problem solving, I guess. And also, like I said, kind of make me aware of what other people are going through, and how that affects everyone completely differently. I recommend it to anybody and everybody. I think, like I said, it's one of the most unique experiences that I've had the opportunity and the privilege to have at Acadia. And it's shaped me greatly as a person. And I would hope better ways. I think I've learned a lot about myself and, like I said, other people through this. I think the only issue is that some people get into it for like the financial reasons. And honestly, if that's all you're in it for, your burnout is going to be insane, because the stuff that you deal with on a daily basis or a weekly basis even is nowhere near like worth your room being covered. Like you have to have like a caring, empathetic, like you need to be coming from a place of care and empathy, and actually wanting to help people if you're going to do well just personally in this role. Because if, like I said, if you come into it just as like, okay, this is just something like it's a part-time job that can get me through university, it is so much deeper than that. And I think that gets missed by a lot of people. And I've had the talk with plenty of people who I've told to apply, but also told them like, I'm giving you like, yes, you should do this. I will write your reference. By all means, do it. But also be aware of the fact that this is not a sunshine, rainbows, butterflies all the time position. And yes, welcome week is incredible and you get to meet all these new people and it's fun and it's happy and stuff like that. But then people will start coming to you with things that you don't necessarily need to be prepared to deal with, because I'm not saying that it's on you to fix these issues or anything like that, but you need to be willing to have really tough discussions with people, and to be a part of things that are going to make you uncomfortable, and you need to be okay with that uncomfort. So being aware, I guess, of how deep it can get. Like I had a friend the other day, he's in his second year of RAing and he had his first, it always comes back to this, but I feel like on a university campus, like this is the most prevalent issue, is like a sexual assault disclosure. And he had somebody come and tell him that, and he called me and was so shaken by it. And I was like, it's okay. Like you did all you could do. And no one ever promised that this was going to be easy or like whatever, but you did it and you were there for them, and that's all that matters. And now moving forward, you just need to continue to be there. And I think a lot of people miss that part of this position because it's the part that nobody else sees, because no one else is in the room when you're having these discussions with people about suicide, about sexual assault, about mental health, about abuse, like all this stuff, right? So they see the happy parts where you're throwing programs and baking cupcakes and welcoming people and throwing parties, but they don't see all the behind closed doors things that really affect you as a person. And I was by no means ready for it, but I got there. And I think as long as you're open to being uncomfortable and learning from that discomfort, then by all means, this is the place for you, I guess. Yeah, like it opens a lot of doors in that, and like you become aware of what you can handle. And it's typically a lot more than you thought you could, as long as you're coming from a place of this person needs me and I'm going to do whatever I can within reason to help them. So I think, well, like the whole consent piece, I think what's happening that shouldn't be happening. Yeah, it becomes a buzzword only in reference to sex. And I think consent is something that should be applied across all aspects of your life. Like there's other things that we can be introducing this in primary school. Consent is when you say yes. So when you come in the morning, would you like me to hug you when I greet you, or would you like to sit down? Do you want to share your food today, or do you want, like, you can be introducing this in every aspect and explicitly saying that this is what it is. Like consent is a thing outside of sexual interaction. And I think the earlier on that you teach students that they have agency in that way, the easier it would be to apply it when you flip it into like the sex ed space. And I think here too, when you get to university, because this is typically where things become, I don't know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And you show up at university and all of a sudden this is just what it is. And no one's told you this, but it's just the mentality that kids show up with. And I think we do like a lot of like alcohol prevention talks and all this stuff. And like there's a really big focus on keeping people from drinking too much and all this stuff. But I think if you tie in like a sexual education piece, teaching people, I guess, how to go about that in a way that's respectful and reasonable and responsible would be more important. And again,